Welcome to the 76th episode of the Hail Mary podcast. I'm the Toes, and I'm joined by my wife, A Toes. We're very excited to have Coach Karen Aston join us to reminisce on the season so far and look forward to the conference tournament. Let's get started.
We're joined today by a special guest, Coach Aston, head coach of the UTSA Women's basketball team. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us on the podcast. And congratulations on the win yesterday against Rice.
Thank you. I'm happy to do this. I appreciate you letting me on.
Let's start out by discussing some of your background. I read that in 2019, you were inducted into the University of Arkansas Little Rock Hall of Fame at your alma mater. What's one of those lessons from when you were playing in college that you passed down onto your players?
Oh, that's a good question. It's been a while since I've thought about playing there, but you know, it's so different now. The first thing I would say is playing at that point was just so different. And I think the biggest lesson is that you take your own ownership for how you want your career to go, how you want your season to go. I think I went through a coaching change, and that's why I actually left the school I was at to go to Little Rock because my coach retired. And um, I just felt like when I got to Little Rock, it was, I kind of reset my goals, and to be honest with you, I matured and I got a lot more serious about conditioning and nutrition and all of that. And it just seemed like I understood that I needed to own my own path, and I think that that's the message that we try to get across is you really don't want to let somebody else control, your time, and you don't want to let somebody else control what effort you put into the sport or whatever it is you're choosing to do. Like, it's your own journey to take. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids let other factors get in the way of their own success or what they deem as success. They either hear noises in their head or maybe they don't like the way the coach is doing things or whatever, but you really can control that, because what they don't really realize is that coaches play the people that they think can help win the games. They don't play
Yeah.
who they like. I mean, it's not about
Yeah.
that. It's about who can get the job done. And I think that a lot of players get other things filtered in about that.
Okay. So, still staying here in college, was a future in coaching already on your mind, or did you have other goals that you wanted to do instead of coaching?
I think by the time I got there, I was, I had drifted through a couple of majors. And I really liked psychology a lot, to be honest with you. And
Okay.
it's, it was very, very interesting to me. I loved my classes, but I just couldn't see a future in psychology. I just didn't know what that looked like at that point. And the logical thing was education, coaching, and I think all of our players experience this. Once you get a little bit closer to graduation, you start to really get realistic about what you see your future looking like. You get
Yeah.
more honed in on, okay, what do I think I want to do? And of course, at that point, I mean, I had a pretty successful, in particular, senior season, but going overseas and all that stuff just wasn't a realistic thought at that point. So you had to pretty quickly figure out what you were going to do with the rest of your life. And
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I coached. I had an opportunity when I was in high school actually to coach like the seventh grade team when I was a senior, and it was part of, I thought, my head coach's vision about leadership was just let them mentor the young ones. And so I had kind of a little taste of it really when I played in high school. So I knew that it was something that I would be passionate about.
That's cool. I also read in your bio that not only after you graduated, you went into coaching, but not only were you coaching women's basketball, you were also coaching cross country and track and field. And you had
Mhm.
a very successful team, both with cross country and with women's basketball. So tell us a little bit about, first of all, how you got into coaching cross country, track and field, and then how do you manage having two really successful programs that you're coaching at the same time that are fairly different?
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do as a basketball coach in high school is convince your kids to run cross country. And
Okay.
I would have never known that at the time, but if you could trick them into it somehow, then you've solved your conditioning issue already with your team, because they're conditioning is phenomenal. So I will say I fell into it. It wasn't something I chose. When I took my first job at Bologna, they just said, "Here you go. Here's 7 through 12. It's yours. This is what you're going to do." And I really think, honestly, I think that I was not the chosen one of the principal of the school, and the superintendent kind of trumped him and said, "Okay, I'm going to pick this young buck from right out of college," and it
Yeah.
wasn't maybe the political choice. So I think they just threw it all on me, thinking there's no way she's going to do this. And once I jumped into it, it was fun. I think it was kind of a unique bonding experience because I ended up talking my team into running cross country.
Okay.
And lo and behold, there were 2 or 3 of them that were really, really good at it. One of them was a state champion. But it also created like this bonding experience with the kids. You get up when I coached, you got up on Saturday mornings to run the race. And we trained in the morning. Like, we got up before school and trained. So there was this unique bonding experience that happened organically through just being together and, running the races together and starting to have some success. And it was kind of, if you coach cross country, you coach track too. So I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about a different type of discipline than you have to have with basketball. I mean, running's completely different. So it was a good experience. I enjoyed it.
It's good to hear and interesting. Now I understand some of maybe the stuff that you put the team through over the past off season when they've talked about some of the like grueling workouts they had to do. So now it all makes sense now.
Well, I will tell you that was pretty much all Carl. They probably really wouldn't want me to do that. They probably don't want me to do the conditioning because I'm all about running. So he's all into they have to do all the weights and all the plyos and all that. But if it was my choice, we'd just line up and run every day. So they're probably happy they have Carl, actually. But I do think conditioning is so. I think it's so important because there's just this mental toughness to being in shape. I mean, you can't. I mean, that old saying, "Fatigue makes a coward out of you," is absolutely the truth. I mean, if you're too tired to play and think, then it's difficult to finish plays and finish games.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're gonna swerve a little here. So when you're not coaching basketball, what do you enjoy doing? What are some of the guilty pleasures? And then why the Miami Dolphins?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got my Dolphins shirt on today.
Yes, you do. I saw that.
Look, see?
I saw.
Okay, so I mean, I like to play golf. I've slowed down enough as I've gotten older to enjoy golf. When I first started, I was terrible and I couldn't wait to get off the course and get back to my job.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know how to enjoy the downtime of golf. I just wanted to hurry up and play. I'd run up there, hit it, run back to the cart. Let's go to the next hole.
Yep.
And now I've learned to sort of enjoy the quietness of it. And Claire's helped me with that. She loves golf. I mean, I enjoy travel a lot. So I would say just, maybe hobby perspective, sports is a hobby to me. So I'll go to a baseball game. I love baseball. I love softball, football. I mean, I love sports. So that's one thing that if you can ever go to a sporting event, I'm going to go. Although I will say being a coach spoils you a little bit. So if your tickets are not good, I'm like, no, I don't want to go because I'm just so used to being like on the floor that having a bad seat in the house it's no fun.
Right.
What Dolphins? I grew up in an age where, and I'm telling my age, but the Dolphins were really good. And I hated the Cowboys.
Fair enough.
I grew up in Arkansas. So like we don't have a pro team. So you have to pick one.
Right.
Like my mom was an avid St. Louis Cardinal fan. So I grew up as a Cardinal fan and have been one since I was a baby. And the Dolphins, I picked myself. Like who knows? I probably liked their colors when I was young, but I've stayed true to them. I mean, they are the only undefeated team ever in the history of NFL. So, yeah, I mean, I've had to I've had to adopt being a Chiefs fan, but I definitely think my heart will always be with the Dolphins. It was truly just because they were really good when I was growing up.
All right.
No other reason.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's get into basketball in your season. You finished with an overall record of 16-13, which is the best record since 2014, 2015. And you were 10-8 in conference, which was the best this program's had since 2016, 2017. If you had told me that at the beginning of the season, I would have assumed that Jordan Jenkins was just integral throughout the season. I think it's even more impressive looking at what the team accomplished, knowing that Jordan missed so much of the season while she was out with injury. When you look at the kind of the season and everything that you accomplished, is that what you expected? Do you think you were right on track, or, how do you kind of feel overall about where the team ended?
Yeah. It's crazy because I think it's just in our nature to think that you're going to win no matter what. Like, I don't think you should play if that's not what you think.
Yeah.
And I just have thought, even through the adversity of Jordan getting injured and the disappointment of it, to be honest with you, I mean, the whole entire team was disappointed, just because of how we finished and what a positive note we all finished on, everybody returning. It just felt really good. And it was a blow to everyone's psyche.
Yeah.
But when we turned the table in June and started training, and we line up and play the first game, I mean, I cannot think of a game we played this year that I did not go into it thinking we're going to win. We can win.
Yeah.
And, it had everything to do with just their work. I mean, they weren't always perfect, and we knew there were going to be some struggles, but I saw what they did in June, July, August. They stuck with things. They never gave up. We made it hard. They went through some stuff, and they just seemed to always come back like, okay, we're ready, and I just never thought that I've thought all along we could win. I mean, I told them when we started conference play, we can win the conference. And I really believe that.
Yeah.
I also told them this is how many games I think a team will lose that wins the conference. I explained to them what the league was going to look like as far as the bottom four, because that was different than Conference USA. That the top four would get a double bye. The bottom four's got to play the first day and play 5 games to win. And we talked about all that. And then I didn't talk about it very much more. So I just wanted them to know up front, this is what this looks like. But I just thought they stuck with it all year, I mean, I can't say enough about my coaching staff too, because that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
If you feel like, you have a bad game and you lose, we had some games we really should not have lost. And the response from our coaching staff was, I think, so solid. As far as this, we stayed very level with the way we prepared. We stayed very level with, they would get in the gym and work extra with them or get an extra film session. And so there was never this panic on our coaching staff's faces or demeanor about how we were going to approach the day. And I think that credit goes across the board, to Kira, who, Alyssa, some of our older players that were anchors, and then the staff just trying to stay as solid as they could. But to confirm what I think you just said in the very beginning is I think everybody thought it's a lost season when Jordan went down. And but I didn't think it was, just based on their response.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how they learned over the season to score, because it seemed like they were kind of relying a lot at the end of the season last year on Jordan to kind of carry the team at times. And I just thought it was impressive to see how they learned to score differently. It wasn't one go-to person throughout the season. You'd have one game where Kira would, be the one who was the leading scorer, and another game where it was Adara, and another game where it was someone else. And so it just seemed like they really all had to learn to take on different roles and step up in different ways.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's always, I think if you try, there's always a silver lining somewhere. It's hard for people to look at it sometimes. But I think the window of opportunity that opened up for Dara to play, I mean, first of all, it's going to impact her career enormously.
Yeah.
Because when you get to play as much as she has played as a freshman and had the type of valuable minutes that she's been a part of, your growth just shoots through the roof.
Yeah.
Because you get that game experience, that game understanding of what this really feels like. And, I'm not sure that would have happened. I'm not sure I would have seen so early what her potential was going to be. I mean, I saw it in the summer when she got here, but you still don't know how they're going to play in the game.
Right.
And I think for her to have that window, and even Cheyenne, I mean, just, Cheyenne came in here really having to learn just like a freshman, out of shape a little bit, needing to learn a new system again. And just that window that opened up for them to play a little bit or a lot. It even helped us when Jordan came back. I mean, it wasn't like we thought, okay, you got to come in here and save the day. I think they understood that they were capable of doing good things.
So I got a question for you, because I think when I was looking at the team, and listening to some of the interviews, especially during the beginning of the season, I remember Maya Linton saying something to Jerry Briggs, and essentially of, those off-season workouts really brought the team together, really forged, I guess, this team pretty well. And throughout the season, and even early in the season, we've already kind of started talking about that, but it felt like this team, was asked a lot of questions by the opponents, and they just kept answering. And it was just impressive to see them, and you've also talked about it before, just that mental fortitude. Just, it didn't matter who you looked at to me on the bench, do what they needed to do, and then you'd bring in somebody else, and then like, okay, the next one up is coming in. Do you think it was really a lot of it from that summer work, or has it just been continually building, I think, since last year, since you did bring in like about 5 freshmen last year, and now you brought in another 3 freshmen, brought in a couple of transfers, and
Yeah.
kind of filled in those gaps at times with other players?
I think it's a little bit of both. I definitely think that the summer regime, the way we broke it down, was very helpful for them to sort of look at it like, okay, this is sort of what season is like. Because we broke a 6-week break, a 6-week, almost like a pre-boot camp. And then it was another 6-week. And then we started practice. So then that was kind of a 5-6 week period. And that's sort of what non-conference is like. And then you have conference play that sort of breaks down like that too. So I think it gave them an understanding of resetting, because one of the 6-week periods was during the summer, and then we took a break in August, and then we came back for another 6-week period before we started practice. So I think that was kind of like Christmas break. Okay, we've come back now, it's conference play. So I think that it gave them a good feeling of what a grind is going to feel like, that's what season is. Season is a grind.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece to why so many different people have stepped up really is our youth, to be honest with you. When you have 9 freshmen and sophomores on your team, there's a lot of days that you don't know who's going to show up.
Okay.
And honestly, I'm sure there's games that people are like, well, so-and-so played last game. Where is she this game?
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do, it's seriously, a lot of it has to do with who's locked in practice that day.
Gotcha.
Or who had a good week of practice, or who I bring off the bench, and did they look ready to play or not? Because there's so many young kids on this team that they're still on that roller coaster of maturity, and we've had to weather that. And that's why I give a lot of credit to our older players. Haley is just a rock. Kylie McGuire, a rock. And so you just go down the line. And Kira's played a lot of minutes, so she's clearly in the forefront from a leadership perspective. But then you have Kylie and Haley behind the scenes, Lissa, who has really taken a lot of the young kids under her wing, sort of like a team mom. Haley's done the same thing. It's just they embraced the fact that they were young and there were days they were going to drive them crazy, but they kind of embraced, okay, we have to try to help them through this, and I thought they did a really good job of that. And so now we're starting to see a few more of the young guys mature, um, because I think, the coaches have stuck with them doing individual work, and then the players have stuck with them and, tried to keep them engaged when maybe they feeling sorry for themselves or whatever. They've kept them engaged. And so, um, you see a Sienna Goodadoro that hasn't played very much and then goes in the game at Wichita State and really was the domino of the game. I mean, she had some huge shots for us, and that's because she's starting to mature in a way that's a little bit different than where she was in the first semester.
Yeah, you've talked a couple of times in past interviews about those moments in the season where you felt like it just clicked for a player, or like the lights kind of turned on with your team. When you look at this season, what are those moments that kind of stand out to you?
Oh, that's a great question. There's several. I mean, one of them was at Sam Houston when we weren't exactly playing great.
Mhm.
At that period of time, we were still trying to find ourselves a little bit. And, they jumped on us and we were playing terrible. And then we just found a way to win that game. So that was one of the first times that I thought, okay, I mean, I think everybody was kind of calling us the cardiac kids because it seemed like every game at the beginning of the year we would get
Yes.
down and come back.
Yeah.
But I started to see that this was going to be a different team than last year, because last year, early in the year, if they got down, it was over.
Mhm.
They couldn't figure out how to dig back themselves out of a mess they might have gotten themselves into. And this year, that those games at Corpus, at Sam Houston, at Houston at our place where we got down and came back
Yep.
and had a chance to win the game. And you could see that there was a resilience with this team that we didn't happen last year. And then I think the Charlotte game, that if I had to pinpoint one of the conference games, that was the one that I think gave them some real confidence.
Yeah.
That we can do this. You had some young guys start to step up. Idara had a huge game, and from there, I think that's kind of where they were like, okay, we know we can do this, and we still had some games that didn't go as well, but I think we started to find our identity on the defensive end during that little stretch of conference play after we got over the first two, and I think we were in shock when we went to Temple and ECU,
Yeah.
and but again, we came back and we regrouped, and so I could tell like this team is not going to quit.
Yeah.
They're not gonna lay down because those two games were rough. It was a rough road trip. We had terrible travel situation at Temple, and then we go to ECU and get our ass kicked, and it's just like, what are we gonna do here?
Yeah.
I mean, we're 0-2, and the very next game, I mean, you could see the resilience in them, and I think that's where I was like, okay, we're gonna be okay. We just got to coach them. There may be good days, there may be bad days, but we've just got to coach the heck out of them.
Yeah, certainly last night, once we started to see the lead narrow a little bit, I was getting kind of a little bit of those heart palpitations, but I felt very confident in what had happened in the past with the team that, I was able to avoid a high heart alert on my Apple phone. So
Right.
And I was
I
just
actually
like,
was too.
out. Yeah. Oh, were you?
Sometimes my watch goes crazy sometimes in the games. Like literally, it's like, are you having a heart attack? It starts beeping and everything, and I'm like, but yeah, last night, I mean, I thought we were okay. I mean, I think when I watched the film again, it looked to me like we ran out of gas a little bit. I think you could tell. I mean, when you think about it, we went to Memphis last Tuesday, and our team is not. They haven't had a day of rest since last Tuesday when they left for Memphis, and that was that we had delay on that trip. We went to Wichita on Friday night, and their flight was it was long travel day. We missed most of our practice at Wichita on Friday night because the flight was so delayed. And then we get back here and have to practice on Sunday, get back at noon, we get back at midnight on Saturday night, practice Sunday to get ready for Rice. So I honestly thought that we were on, I mean, it was a good thing that the game didn't go into overtime because I
Yeah.
thought we were running on fumes in the fourth quarter.
And I just felt, and maybe I'm naive in thinking this, but I was like, no, our girls have it. Like it just, there also felt like there was times, and it's fun sitting close because you get to not only hear what the players are saying, but
Yeah.
there was this, it felt like, and it was really Kira. And I think we're going to bring up her name quite a bit, right? But Kira just seemed to be just leading the way and just kind of telling the players, just let's just maintain, let's go, let's go. And then Jordan, and I think, I go back and just look at the Kira Jordan just past partnership where it just feels like when, as Jordan has come back, like Kira has that person that she's known forever, that she can throw the ball over her head or do whatever, and she knows that Jordan's going to be there. And it just, to me, it just felt like we're going to have this just because of the fact that from all the battles, everything that's gone on this season, they're not going to let it slip now. And, again, maybe naive in that, but I don't know. I don't count this team out ever. And I think that's been I think what I've learned about this team over the season too.
So if you had to,
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that.
if you
Go
had
ahead,
to
sorry.
look at your kind of roster this year and say, who's that most improved player, either from the beginning of the season or maybe from like last season to this season, who do you look at and kind of see the most growth in?
I have to say I think Kira is one of them because her 3-point shot has improved so much, and she leads our league in assists. She's in the top 2 or 3 in assist turnover ratio. She's I think behind the scenes become our defensive stopper, and that was something that I don't even think was in her realm of thought process last year. Is that when it's time to guard somebody that is hurting us, I want to be the one. And I don't think that was even in her thought process. So I would have to really probably put her up there. I mean, the time that she spent in the gym was not even, you can't even measure it from last year to this year. And I just think that she's grown as a leader and learned how to, like, even when things aren't going great for her, learned how to still stay in it and lead. Like last night, she didn't shoot the ball well, but you alluded to the fact that she led our team, and I think that's where she's grown. Last year she would have gotten too down on herself, and this year I think she knows like we can't do that, and so that's growth. And I think in some really different ways, Alyssa Coleman has really improved a lot. I think her face-up shot is so much better. She's finishing around the rim so much better, and she's learning how to stay out of foul trouble better than last year. So, I mean, I think those two probably would be at the top of the list as far as improvement from last year.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, and you mentioned it right now about Kira, was, being that defensive stopper. And I mentioned it before on one of our pods that I noticed that, especially against Charlotte, and I want to say it's Deja Lawrence. I think that's her name. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but
no,
she was
right.
hurting us quite a bit. And I wouldn't say she was hurting us quite a bit, but she was making some big shots near the end of the game. And it felt like when we needed somebody to step up to get in Deja's face, it was Kira. And Kira hadn't really been around her a lot, but then all of a sudden at the end of the game, she's stepping up and she's doing that. And, I just kept telling Andrew, I was like, it reminded me of a moment in Hoosiers. I'm gonna go back to an old school movie, but if you remember Hoosiers, and one of the things that Gene Hackman asked one of his point guard is, by the end of the game, I want to know what flavor of gum that our opponent is tasting. And so I joked about it, and I was like, I feel like at the end of the Charlotte game, Coach Aston looked over at Kira, and Kira would say, like, what's raspberry or whatever, it was like, but it was that sort of mentality. And I think you're right. It just,
yeah, for sure.
It's great to see some of that growth, especially with Kira. I mean, too often I think we look back and we look at the young players and say, oh, look how much growth they have. But even the veteran players can just have what feels like an aha moment. So yeah, this Kira
For
growth is
sure.
just incredible. So we talked a little bit about um,
Yeah.
talked a little bit about the team, but now let's talk a little bit about this tournament because you mentioned it before. You got these double buys. So how important is this double buy going into the conference tournament for our team?
Well, I mean, I'd like to think that it's really, really huge. There's always this fear of not staying sharp, because
Yeah.
you don't play. You have to manage your days off a little bit. Sorry. So you have to, strategically manage practice times and how long you go and how hard you go and all of that. But at the end of the day, you've put yourself in a position to only have to win 3 instead of 4 or 5 to win a championship, and that has to be a positive.
Yeah.
I hear other leagues. I mean, I was in a league like that, and when I was in the Big 12, and you just can't. It's tough. It would be tough to win 5, I think, for
Right.
sure. I think that's really tough. And then, just I think the mental side of that, of knowing that that's all you have to do is win 3, and the obviously the fear is you don't take the first one seriously because you're thinking I just have to win 3 and all of
Yeah.
that. But it's I mean, we'll probably try to take a look back at last year and say, okay, we played 3, we know we could do it, and if you get to the third one, we'd probably do it a little bit different. So there's some things I think this particular team can reflect back on our experience last year, just in the fact that we had to play 3. um, their their approach, but I think it gives you a mental shot more than anything. It doesn't give you a better shot once you get on the floor. I mean, that
Yeah. Yeah.
teams get on rolls. I mean, we've seen it happen every single year that um, teams can get on rolls, and it doesn't matter how many games they play. They're just get on a roll, and I hope that's our team that does that. And but I'm excited. I think they're excited, definitely. And we took the day off today, so I'm excited to get back on the floor with them tomorrow.
Awesome. So when you look at the tournament, then is there, I know this is probably not the best coach question, but is there a team that you're kind of either hoping to maybe avoid or clash against, or even is there a coach from the, within that's going to be in the tournament that you're looking forward to matching with again, or, for the first time?
Uh, no, I mean, we've played everyone, so that, yeah, I wouldn't say there's anybody in particular that I'm like, I want to play them again, and um, I don't want to play them. I mean, I do
Yeah.
think that there are some games that it'll be interesting for us to, if we were to see someone again that we didn't feel like we played well, I'd be interested to see how we matched up if we played them again. But I mean, at this point, you don't care. I mean, you don't care who you play. You just want to live to play another day, and you don't overthink it. I've learned valuable lessons about overthinking a game. So you get prepared and you try to win one game, and then you go to the next one, and that's the only way to look at it.
So are you kind of right now trying to think about and game plan for all 3 of your potential opponents, or do you just focus on kind of your fundamentals and the things that you feel like your team needs to improve?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you have a day to focus on some of those things. I mean, we haven't, just some little things that we haven't done in practice very much at all. We haven't, and the kids will hate me saying this, but we haven't even had a warm up. We have a regimented kind of pre-practice stuff that we do that we've had to just kind of scratch for the last 2 weeks. So it kind of dictates pace of the way we play, but we've had to, really condense our practices. So I'll look forward to, Friday getting to kind of have a day where this is how we do things, and how we do things is what dictates, to me, in my opinion, what our habits are and how we play. So I think it is about us. Do we get back to certain things that we think we do well defensively? We got to really hone back in on them. Be honest with you, we're not rebounding the ball well at all. I don't know what's happened the last 2 or 3 games. I do know other teams have been very hell bent on us not getting rebounds, but we have to
Yes.
turn the table on that again. We have to figure that out because we've not been as good on the boards. So they're going to hear me talk about that for the next couple of days. And then I think just some offensive things that we've seen that we've struggled with. I mean, I can very, very much pinpoint in the last 3 games certain situations where we just didn't handle them great on offense. And so we'll work on some of those things. We'll get a lot of shooting in, and again, fine line between trying to stay sharp and keep your legs fresh.
Yeah.
So I got a quick question for you because I see this a lot see you post a video on Twitter, but is it just trying to keep your players loose when you're just doing that kind of half court shot? Because it feels like it keeps the players loose and they seem to have a lot of fun with it, but it also feels like your moment to also kind of just show us a little behind the scenes of the team just
Yeah.
kind of enjoying each other and just being with the coaches and just all together.
Yeah, I think they would die if we didn't get to do it. They love being the one that gets to hit it, and it's just been a ritual of mine that I've stuck with for a long time as a head coach, and yeah, it's just a fun way to end practice. And there's some days we've actually been pretty decent in shoot around most games, but there's been a couple of games that we've not been very good, and I'm like, now we have to do the half court shots. But it's just they're kids, and
Yeah.
they enjoy it, and you never know when you have to hit a half court shot, so they get to practice it every game.
Yeah, it's cool.
Just out of curiosity, when you're looking at your schedule for next season, I think people are pretty familiar with how football schedules their out of conference, and
Yeah.
those are games that are scheduled way in advance. And obviously it seems like basketball is handled very differently. So how does that look like? When do you start planning for your out of conference schedule?
Oh, it's done. If you're really on top of things, you almost schedule 2 years in advance for non-conference, because a lot of times you end up scheduling like what's called a home and home with people. And so you're playing that team for 2 years.
Okay.
So you're almost working in a 2-year increment. Then you'll have to ask Coach Cam about this sometime, because he inherited scheduling with me.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, look, every coach in America should have to do scheduling at some point in their career, because it's miserable. It is a grind. You have to work on it all the time, and there's constantly people like, okay, I'll play you, and then no, no, we're not. Change the day, like it's terrible. But yeah, our non-conference schedule is we need one more game.
Okay.
And it's been challenging, honestly, because I hate to say this, but like our net hasn't been good enough for some teams to want to come here and play us and not take a hit on the net. Hopefully we've had a better net year this year, and hopefully they'll see that we should have get better each year. Being in this conference helps our net for sure. So it's hard to get teams to come here.
Yeah.
Because if you're giving a guarantee for someone to play here, they're comparing guarantees. So that, we're probably not going to give as much as the school down the road. So that kind of hurts a little bit. And then you also want to find some balance with how many you go on the road and do. I don't want to overload, which I think I've done the last 2 years, is overload the non-conference schedule. But I think next year we found some pretty decent balance. We do have to return to Houston. That was a home and home.
Okay.
We're gonna go to A&M, and we have some, like, Corpus is returning here. UT Arlington is returning here, those are two really good mid-major games for us. Sam has to return here, and then we have to go to New Mexico State and UTEP. Those are return games for them coming here this year. And both of them are in a competitive league. So I feel pretty good about it. We're going to go to Puerto Rico. I don't know who we're going to play, but we're going to a tournament in Puerto Rico during Thanksgiving, which I'm super excited about, because we didn't get to go anywhere for Thanksgiving this year, and we're trying, as we've talked about, we're trying to plan in the near future a foreign trip. But I think this is it's a good it'll be a good trip for our kids. I mean, they get, there's excursions that go
Yeah.
with it and some time for the kids and different cultures. So I think it'll be good for them. But we're almost set.
Okay.
Well, is there
Now
anything?
the conference we don't get till October.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is there anything you would like our listeners to know about the team, or you just kind of overall about the athletics program?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that understandably so, football gets an enormous amount of attention here in the city. And I think Jeff has done a remarkable job, connecting and brought in San Antonio players and all of that. But I think one thing that I hope that the city is starting to recognize is this is a serious athletic program. And we're all moving the needle. You see softball's better. You see what volleyball did last week. And I mean, everybody's getting better. Soccer went to the NCAA tournament last year. So I think that I really wish the city would gravitate to UTSA in a manner that this would become, this is where we're going. This is where who we're going to support. And I think that it would make a huge difference in all the programs if they would really, for lack of better words, take us seriously. And I think that they are starting to. And I mean, that's our job, to put a product on the court and on the field that people appreciate watching. But I think we're doing that. And then I guess the other part is just, as far as our program is concerned, I don't know if people realize how remarkable what they're doing is. We huge turnaround last year, but I think, we came off of last year feeling so good about it, but then the jump to the American was a big one. I mean, it was good. I love being in this conference. I think it's a very good women's basketball conference, but I also think it was a big leap. And what we were able to do this year is just, I mean, it shows you where we're going. And I hope that people can appreciate what these young women have done and the effort that they put into making the program better, because all of them came here for that reason. They came here because they had an opportunity to make a difference in a program. And I think that they should be applauded for that, and some did have other choices. And I just think that they really wanted to help grow the program. And I think that, I applaud them. I think they've done a great job, and we're not done, and we have a lot more things we want to get accomplished, but I'm so proud of where we are. And I just hope that everyone is, because they should be.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, Coach, we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and the lead up here to this conference tournament, and just having some little bit of time to talk UTSA basketball with us, especially the women's team. And, good luck to, you and the team. But as we close this out, let me just ask you one final question. Looking back at your time here at UTSA, what word or phrase would best describe it?
Growth. That's
Just
it.
Growth, huh?
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Coach. Hope you have a good rest of your night. And
All right. Thank y'all.
Before we go, the women will begin their tournament play on Monday, March 11th at 2 p.m. Central on ESPN+. Like we mentioned, the team doesn't know exactly who their opponent will be, and they won't learn that until Sunday afternoon. They will either face South Florida, FAU, or Wichita State. Kind of tried to get Coach Aston to comment on this, but just curious what your thoughts are on, is there one of those three opponents that you think we should be rooting for to see play against UTSA, or one of those opponents that you'd be a little concerned about if we faced them?
Well, I think that, all three teams UTSA handled easily during the regular season. I say easily, obviously we put a lot of effort there, but they weren't like very close games.
Yeah, we didn't have any like overtime.
Right. I mean, it was a good at least 10-point margin for most of these games. So, I would watch out for Wichita State and FAU because, they're one of the bottom seeds, but they could be like UTSA was last year where they started near the bottom and then, kind of went on this 2-game win streak before they, for the third game, as Coach mentioned in an interview, that kind of ran out of gas and just, that's it. They're going to handle differently this time, right? So, I think watch out for that because it's March Madness. So
anything can happen.
Yeah, anything could happen. I think most likely it'll be South Florida. And I think, it's not going to be an easy game, but I think it's a game that we certainly can take control of and win. So, I don't know. I mean, if you think differently, I honestly think that, we have a good shot of at least making the semifinals, if not making a nice run to the finals.
Yeah, definitely. By earning a winning record in the regular season, they open the door for postseason play. Hopefully it's the NCAA tournament where we see them, but if not, it sounds like they may be looking forward to an invite from one of the other two postseason tournaments.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good experience for them, right? Because I think, Coach Aston has told us that, none of these players have had any postseason experience yet.
Mm-hmm.
Take out conference tournaments because everybody goes to that, but to be invited to play in a postseason tournament, big for this program, big from where they were back in 2021. So
yeah.
This rise has been terrific, but it clearly, I think, leaves some of us fans wanting more, right? So it's good because I would love to see them continue playing.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see them be able to build on that momentum for next season.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you weren't at the game against Rice, there was also a dunk contest at halftime. There were 3 football players that participated. Jamori Robinson was the winner. That was pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's something that we see them do in the future years as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Coach Traylor probably had a sigh of relief at the end of it because there was no injuries. Because,
sure.
Not saying these guys aren't great athletes, but let's be honest.
Yeah, the last thing you want to have happen is like lose a wide receiver in a dunk contest in the women's basketball game.
Or one of your best pass rushers that you're going to have coming up in the season, like go up and fall awkwardly, right? So,
sure.
Yeah, all fun and games, but I think it's just he's just wiping his brow and going, all right, they got to do this. Let's get back to work.
Sure. The men's basketball team is also on a hot streak right now. They've had a 3-game winning streak, beating North Texas, Tulsa, and SMU. They've improved to 11 wins this season, including 5 conference wins, which is the most wins they've had in conference and overall since 2020. They have one more conference game to play before they head to the conference tournament. At the Convocation Center on Sunday, they will play Temple at 2 p.m.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's, after the SMU game, Jordan Ivy Curry, or Juice, as I always like to call him, and you do too, mentioned that one of the big reasons they've been on this kind of winning streak is because they've just really tightened down on defense. And that's been what mainly our critique of this team has been, if they button down on defense, they really give themselves an opportunity, to at least win a few more games. And so it's really nice to see Coach Henson here on this nice 3-game winning streak. That defense is a big part of it. Just giving them opportunity to potentially, a better record in conference and, to potentially move up a couple seeds here for the tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Because they haven't played their last game, we obviously don't know exactly what seed they're going to end up. If it ended today, they would be in the 12th seed, but that would put them likely playing on Wednesday, March 13th, which is the first day of the tournament. But if things fall their way and they beat Temple, there's a possibility that they could get a bye that first part of the tournament.
Yeah, it'd be great. You have a couple other things happen and, much like the women, all of a sudden you move from a lower seed and then you get yourself potentially a first round bye, and that's huge for this program too. We're talking a lot about the women's program, but a nice step for this men's team to, have a little success as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always nice to get hot at the end of the season, right?
Yeah. March Madness, right? We just already said it. Anything can happen, so.
That's why we love it.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the Hail Mary podcast. I'm Atovs.
And I'm Toves.
We'll be back soon with a final wrap up of the basketball season and spring football coverage.
Birds up.